All right, and we're back. Welcome to the Norman Nick Show. I am Norman. With me today, I do have Tyronica Gibson, a good friend of mine. What I've known you for like almost 2 years now, two and a half
Yeah,
years.
yeah,
Yeah,
about
we
2 years. Yeah,
we haven't been able to connect as of lately because of our lives being hectic. But we started off on Facebook meeting in a parental rights forum as far as discussing about like co-parenting and parental rights. And you were, I believe, when we first started talking, you were putting together your podcast
yeah,
and doing something out of Cali. Do you want to go in and explain what it is that you do?
yeah. So I have my app, Parent Playground, which is focused on connecting parents and really just building on a relationship like you have with your child and letting parents be able to connect with other parents because there's really not a place, especially outside of like Facebook, to literally just only connect with parents and just have these activities for your kids to be able to do that. You're looking all over the place. So it's kind of like just a one space area for you and your child to connect, and you to find other parents who want to connect also with you by meeting up at events and things of that nature. So the podcast kind of spin off of that because I feel like parents, we also don't have like a really authentic space to express the real challenges of parenting. Like, of course, we love our children, but like, that stuff is stressful. So it's like I wanted to create a place where we can actually talk about like the the ugly side of parenting, the real side of parenting, to where we can all be honest about our journeys and be able to connect with other parents on a real, just foundational, authentic, honest level.
Yeah. Yeah, because on Facebook, a lot of people like to try to use your words against you, being
Hmm.
facetious, and try to, repost your stuff and re-annulate, what you're trying to, the message you're trying to get across. And, so, last thing you need is your ex trying to use your words against you on recording.
Exactly. Yeah.
So with that being said, I did have a list of items to discuss with you in regards to co-parenting
Yeah.
and parental rights education. Now, as far as your expertise, there's 10 topics that I really wanted to go over,
Hmm.
um, and not to take up all of your time. But the first one I wanted to talk about was like legal framework.
Yeah.
So, what legal rights and responsibilities do co-parents have? And as far as like discussing the legal aspects of custody, visitation, and child support. So, in other words, what do you think, or how far do you think in co parenting, how far do you think the responsibility should go as far as the responsibility of the co parent helping out, or, you know what I mean, as far as being the assistant parent as opposed to being the 50-50, you know what I mean, in that aspect?
So I feel like as far as like when it comes to like the legal aspect of it, um, because of my personal experience with it, like obviously sometimes it doesn't work out for you guys to be able to do it like on your own. So I do heavily believe in the legal aspect of it, only for like, you guys have something clear and black and white on paper for both parties. So that way, obviously we're human, so there are going to be moments where we may feel a way, and that makes sometimes influence your behavior or your judgment or your reaction to the other parent. So to kind of like help keep that from being a thing is like, I do believe, especially like after my experience of going through the court process, and even if it's not a thing like you guys like battling it out, but even if you guys just coming to a common ground of understanding and saying, hey, we're going to write this parenting plan together. Um, and just unfortunate, I think a lot of fathers also don't realize the rights that they have, and there on both sides there is like abuse of power. So I think having everything in black and white, it just levels the playing field. So that way, if it is that moment where today I may be having a bad day and like I'm tripping, right, I may say or do something that may not be the best for the situation, but having everything in black and white kind of prevents that and puts everything like in a clear cut space.
So in other words, you're saying go back to the script as a safety net. So
Yeah.
if you expound on the court order, because you guys are both adults, and let's
Hmm.
say you do get along, and at some point, because of pillow talking from the new boyfriend or new
Hmm.
girlfriend, it kind of goes awry. You know what I mean, as far as the parenting
Yeah.
plan. you can just say, well, let's scratch this rabbit hole we're going down. Let's just stick to the basics and we'll go back to our original court ordered visitation. That way there's no hiccups and we can expound off of that. That's actually a really good point to make for parents if they can do that reset. That would save a lot of toxic, back and forth.
It saves a lot of back and forth. And then you also have to think about, obviously, when you're no longer together in a relationship, your perspective and your feelings change for the individual. And depending on how high conflict the original relationship was, that plays a part. And then you have to think about now, then we're both going to be dating other people. They're going to have an involvement with not only our child, but having influence on how we're operating, because now the way that we're doing stuff and the way we're interacting with our co-parent does affect them in a sense. So, and sometimes them coming from the outside, there are some people who are very ill intentional, and then there are some people who are wanting to have the best intentions, but it's like also it's a place and a level for certain involvement levels. So it's kind of like when you start getting that messiness, that's also where that black and white paper comes in. It's like, okay, today, like, this is just not going to be it. So let's just focus to what we originally agreed on. That way, and then if anything needs to be changed, we can all agree on the change that needs to happen moving forward.
That's fair enough. I found with my situation, my ex and her level of ego, her egoness, as
Mm-hmm.
far as not being able to let the argument go and having to
Yeah.
get the last word, or or the not even the last word, but the last hoorah. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Whether you know what I mean, and it's
Yeah.
usually something that has to affect my day, whether it's the last, I'm not going to do it on time, or I'm not going to, I'm just going to purposely do what I want to do, even though I said I'm going to do this, or
Yep.
whatever. But you know, but what I find helps me is now that I'm more mature and having to deal with my level of toxicity and not being able to co-parent as effectively as we used to
Mm-hmm.
before, there were other factors involved, is having an attorney on retainer. Like, she
Yeah.
knows because of my status that I can call an attorney like that and I
Right.
can get representation right away for next to nothing.
As a domestic relations family law firm, we are often asked what type of issues this practice deals with. It's not just divorce and separation. It encompasses child support, custody issues, marriages, prenuptials, and antinuptials, even things like protective orders. Suffice to say, here at the Valley Law Group, we handle a wide variety of family law issues. If you feel you have issues that fall under our umbrella, don't hesitate to pick up the phone now and call 480-300-6012 or online at www.thevalleylawgroup.com.
So it helps me as far as my level of toxicity to actually have an attorney on retainer where she knows that, you don't act right, you already know what's going to happen. There's going to be consequences. So instead of fighting, you know what I mean, just know that, kind of like nuclear weapons, just know
Mm-hmm.
that we have an arms race and that you don't want to put the nuclear weapons on the battlefield. So
Exactly.
we might as well just get along and for the best sake of everybody.
And I do
So
appreciate your level of like admitting, like you said, my level of toxicity, because I think that happens a lot. And especially with, my situation, I know I'm a controller. So that was one thing I had to work through myself, because it's like I always want to be in control, and I had to take a step back and realize, like, okay, where the control stop and where is it? Okay, this makes the most sense. So that
I
was.
think I think what helped me out more than anything else is the fact that I have two baby mamas, that,
Mhm.
my first one, my kids are all grown, they're all 18 with my
Right.
first one, but my second set, when we went to court, I learned from the first one who got full custody. I paid child support for her, I missed out on a bunch of upbringing because of the toxic and her moving out of
Mhm.
state. But with the second one, I was able to take control of the reins and say, look, and cut off, and basically snip the timeline so she can make sure she stayed in a certain path.
Right.
So the advantage kind of like that I had, like with what you're saying, as far as like the level of toxicity and control, um, as a co-parent with the first relationship and not being the primary custodial parent, I
Hmm.
was forced to take the back seat and grind my teeth and, and be unhappy with the situation. But at the same time, now that I am on the opposite end, it's hard dealing with her because she's used to that stereotypical, the mother has full custody and the
Yeah.
father is the one that's chasing. So I find myself with a lot of resentment with dealing with her because, if she's not cooperating in any aspect of the court order, you know what I mean? I try to hold myself back from being, a Karen and being like, you want me to work with you, but
Right.
whereas you got to meet me halfway because I'm full time parenting here. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, I see what you mean.